The rain-slicked streets of the city glistened like molten silver under the glow of street lamps, and the entrance of the Grand Crescent Hotel sparkled with golden light. Inside the lobby, marble floors reflected the crystal chandeliers above, and a hush of wealth and secrecy filled the air. Daniel Hayes walked in with a woman at his side, her red dress catching every flicker of light. He wore his best suit, the one he'd once bought for his anniversary dinner with his wife, but tonight he was here with someone else, thinking no one would ever know. As he handed his credit card to the desk clerk and signed under a false name, a small tremor of unease passed through him, but he pushed it aside. What happened next would shatter the double life he had built. If you believe in kindness, dignity, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Hidden Hearts. Your support helps these inspiring stories reach more people who need hope. Daniel had once been a good man. He built his small business from scratch, married Anna, a brilliant but quiet woman who supported his every risk. They had dreamed together, saved together, but somewhere along the way, success and temptation crept in. Late nights at the office, new money, new faces. His marriage became an afterthought while his ego swelled. Anna sensed the distance but never stopped working. She poured her energy into her own projects, quietly studying finance and hospitality, while Daniel thought she was simply distracted. He never noticed the late nights she spent at meetings, the documents she pored over at the kitchen table after he fell asleep. The woman on his arm tonight was younger, dazzled by his stories of power. She believed the lies he told about his business trips and unhappy marriage. He thought he had everything under control. As they rode the gilded elevator to the top floor, Daniel rehearsed a story for his wife if she ever found out. Some excuse, some way to frame himself as the victim. But when the doors opened, the hotel's penthouse suite was already prepared, a bottle of champagne chilling by the window. He smiled at his own audacity, unaware that the foundations of his double life were about to crack. Downstairs, Anna arrived at the same hotel, her heels clicking confidently across the marble. In a perfectly tailored navy suit, she looked every bit the executive she had quietly become. Months earlier, she had finalized a deal to purchase controlling shares of the Grand Crescent through a holding company, stepping into ownership just that morning. This evening was supposed to be her first unannounced walkthrough as the new proprietor. She had planned to tour the property quietly, then call Daniel later to share the news. But as she moved through the lobby, a staff member approached with a message. Mr. Hayes had checked in under an alias with a guest. Anna felt the world tilt but steadied herself. Years of heartbreak had taught her how to stand tall even as her heart broke. Upstairs, Daniel poured champagne, trying to shake the nervous flutter in his chest. He heard a knock at the door and assumed it was room service. When he opened it, Anna stood there, flanked by a discreet hotel manager who now reported directly to her. She stepped into the suite with quiet authority. For a moment, Daniel could not move. His heart hammered as the two worlds he had built collided. The woman in red looked from husband to wife, realizing the truth. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Anna did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Her presence filled the room with a calm power. She had once been the supportive wife waiting at home, but tonight she was the owner of the building in which Daniel's betrayal played out. She gave quiet instructions to the manager, who nodded and withdrew. Daniel tried to speak, but the weight of his own choices silenced him. Anna turned and left, her heels clicking across the marble hallway, leaving behind the man who had underestimated her resolve. The days that followed were a reckoning. The affair ended, Daniel's reputation faltered, and his business partners pulled away. Alone in a small apartment, he confronted the emptiness he had created. Meanwhile, Anna used her new position to turn the hotel into a beacon of ethical employment and mentorship. She hired single mothers, offered training programs to staff, and opened a scholarship fund in her family's name. She never publicly humiliated Daniel. She simply let her actions speak louder than any revenge. Yet her success and dignity became a quiet mirror that forced Daniel to see who he had become. Months passed. Daniel reached out, not with excuses, but with apologies. He volunteered at shelters, attended counseling, and slowly began rebuilding himself. Anna did not take him back as a husband, but she met with him occasionally, seeing the man she had once loved begin to re-emerge from behind the ego. It was not a fairy tale ending, but it was a human one. Redemption rooted not in grand gestures, but in humble accountability. 1 year later, at a charity gala hosted at the Grand Crescent, Anna stood at the podium speaking about second chances. Among the guests was Daniel, dressed modestly, helping with logistics behind the scenes rather than sitting in the spotlight. When their eyes met across the room, there was no bitterness, only a quiet recognition of lessons learned. The hotel that had once been a stage for betrayal had become a place of new beginnings. Not just for them, but for dozens of employees and guests whose lives had been touched by Anna's programs. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Hidden Hearts. These small actions help stories of dignity and change reach people who need them most. Before you go, drop a comment below and tell us, what does second chance mean to you?